All right, so my iPad shut off on accident. It went to sleep. So let's do these last 8 graphs right here in a new video. All right, so graph the parent functions and your knowledge of transformations to sketch the rest. So once again, I know this is an exponential function. That means that the asymptote is at y equals 0, and there's no vertical or horizontal shifts. That's why I know it's not moved up or down, so it's going to be at y equals 0. So y equals 0. All right, and then I know that there's a point at 0, 1, and there's no horizontal shift, no vertical shift. So therefore, it's still at 0, 1. And then I know it's growth because it's a positive 3. So I'm going to go up and to the right, sketch, remember, and there's what it looks like. Domain, all real numbers. Range, 0 to infinity, not including 0. All right, so now if you're like, okay, what about the base of 3? I care about if you know where the asymptote is, and then if there's any transformations, horizontal, vertical, or reflections. That's it. All right, same idea here, logarithmic function. Logarithmic function has an asymptote at x equals 0, unless there's a vertical or horizontal shift, unless there's a horizontal shift, right? So if it was moved right or left, I would say, oh, I got to move it that right or left. It's not, right? There's nothing moving it right or left right here. So then I also have a point at 0, 1, 1, 0, and that's not being changed because this is not moved right or left. It's not moved up or down. All right. And then I know a logarithmic function follows my asymptote and then goes up and to the right, and that's what my logarithmic function looks like. My domain, 0 to infinity. My range, all real numbers. And then my asymptote, x equals 0. Right? Okay. So let's try these 6 more here to make sure we're okay with it. All right, so exponential function. I would start with my asymptote at y equals 0, but I see that this is moved down 2. So I'm going to move my asymptote down 2. It's now at y equals negative 2. Negative 2. And then I have a point usually at 0, 1, but it's moved down 2. And then it's not moved right or left because there would be something right here to move it right or left. And then I know that it's growth, so I'm going up and to the right. And that's what my function looks like. Domain, all real numbers. Range, lowest it goes is negative 2 to infinity. Right? Not bad. All right. Let's go ahead and do these next one. This is an exponential function. If you're like, but E is just a number. It's 2.7, blah, 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 blah. It's a number. So it's an exponential function. My asymptote is usually at y equals 0. There are no vertical shifts, so it's still at y equals 0. Now I usually have a point at 0, 1, but this is moved right 2. So instead of 0, 1, I'm going to move it right 2 to 2, 1, and then it's an exponential growth still. And there's my graph. So my domain, all real numbers. My range, 0 to infinity. Okay. All right, next one here, I can see that I have an exponential function. My asymptote is usually at y equals 0, but there is a vertical shift up 1. So I'm going to move it up 1 to y equals 1. I'm going to write that down right away. Y equals 1. And then I usually have a point at 0, 1, okay, right here. Or sorry, it moved up 1, so right above that. But this one is moved left 3, so I'm going to move it right here instead. But another thing that I notice is that there is a vertical reflection. So instead of being here, I'm now going to be here, right? And then I can erase this one. So you guys sometimes have to think through this, right? Okay. And then usually if it was right here, it would go up and to the right like this, right? Okay. So you got to think about reflecting that it's still going to follow the asymptote here, and then it's going to come down this way, okay? So sometimes you have to draw the other one just to think about what this looks like. It's not a big deal, though. All right, domain, all real numbers. Range, the lowest it goes is negative infinity, and then the highest this goes is 1. Okay, and that was our only reflection. Now that I look at them, I was like, oh, how many of those do we have to do? The rest are all logs, okay? So we have 3 more logs to do. All right, so usually my asymptote for a log is at x equals 0, but you can see that there's a horizontal shift right 3 here. So I'm going to move it right 3. The parentheses tells me it's right 3 and not down 3. And then usually I have a point just 1 to the right of that at 1, 0, but now it's 1 to the right of that, so 4, 0. And then I have my logarithmic function that looks like this. My domain is from 3 to infinity. So notice it changed my domain. My asymptote is x equals 3. My range is all real numbers. All right, next one. My vertical asymptote is usually at x equals 0, and there is no horizontal shift here. It is moved down to, but if I moved a vertical line down to, it still stays where it is, right? So I still have x equals 0. If it was like this instead, I'd be right too, okay? All right, so my asymptote is at x equals 0. All right, now I usually have a point at 1, 0, but it is moved down to, so I'm going to move it down to, so it's now here. But other than that, my graph looks the same, like so. My domain, 0 to infinity. My range, all real numbers. All right, the very last one. It is a logarithmic function. Usually my asymptote is x equals 0, but this has a horizontal shift left 1. So I'm going to make it at -1. X equals -1. And then I usually have a point right to the right of that. It would be at 0, 0 now, but it's moved right 1, and which I already did. And then, oh no, I didn't do that, left 1 and down up 2. Gosh, I can't talk right now. So I do have to move it up 2 still. If you're like, wait, you didn't move it left 1. It's usually supposed to be here, right? And I did move it left 1 and up 2. I just thought about it before I did it. Okay, and then make my exponential function, or sorry, my logarithmic function, and then my domain, not 0, -1 to infinity, and my range, all real numbers, -infinity to +infinity. All right, that's it for today's notes. Sorry about the stop, but I didn't want to restart from the beginning because of the glitch. Your homework, you can start working on that.